Hey guys, hi everyone. Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Raksha Bandhan as well. And today, as you guys, requested for a cryptography session today, I am here with you with a cryptography session. And just to know how many of you are there, you can just, put a chat if I can see your chats also coming up to me. So try to put a chat, guys. Okay. In the meantime, let's start the session because today we are going to have a little lengthy session because I'm going to cover theory as well for you because last time many of you asked, okay, we need to have some theory as well. So I will give you a theory boost as well, and alongside also we will practice some questions as we go along. Okay. So this is basically the CISSP exam mastery sessions. And in this, we are on to the session number 2 today. And because, cryptography is a very lengthy topic. And normally I take around 10 hours to only teach cryptography in depth. But since we are very exam focused in this session, I'm going to just be a little bit on the high level, but at the same time, I will cover those things which are very important from the exam perspective. So let's dive into cryptography. And the first thing I want to let you know how the flow of the session is going to be. I'm going to cover some concept for you on cryptography, and maybe because there are too many concepts for cryptography, we will also continue the same next Friday as well. Then I am going to give you some real exam like questions, and that is where you have to check your intuition and your concepts as well. And then we are going to decode them as per the CISSP norms. And then that is where I will take you through the entire session in a very interesting way. Let's go through the first most important thing which is tested in the CISSP exam, and that is goals of cryptography. As we all know, cryptography is the science of making sure that the plain text which is going to be sent to the other party has to be encrypted so that an unauthorized party do not have access to that information. They can have the information, but they are going to have a jumbled text which is of no use for the other party. And on those lines, it is very important to understand, because in cryptography we have so many other things as well. So we need to understand what exactly is the goal of cryptography, what you want from this particular service, and which particular cryptography mechanism is used for what purpose. So the first and foremost here is confidentiality. As we all know, confidentiality is, we don't want that unauthorized party should have access to the information. So for that sake, for confidentiality is provided by encryption, right? And as you know, there are two type of encryption algorithms we are going to talk most, right? In the real world they are used. One is called as symmetric and one is called as asymmetric. If you are fairly new to these, don't worry, we are going to cover it today as well. Then the next goal of cryptography is to achieve integrity. The message which the sender is going to send to the receiver should not be modified by an unauthorized party. And this is where we are going to tag it with hashing. Okay. Now in hashing as well, we have two type of hashing. One is message integrity code and message authentication code. I will take you through that in just a while. Then comes authentication, and you believe it or not, you cannot authenticate if you do not have cryptography as on today, and specifically more about the asymmetric cryptography. So authentication is normally achieved through asymmetric cryptography. In some cases, symmetric cryptography is also used. For example, the whole base of Kerberos is based on symmetric, and so many things. But fundamentally, what we use in today's world is all about asymmetric cryptography that is used day in and day out, whatever transactions you do, we use asymmetric cryptography. And in the asymmetric cryptography, not plain asymmetric cryptography, we have to use digital certificates, right, for authentication. So there are a lot of authentication, and very strong authentication you can achieve by using the digital certificates. You can yourself see in your company as well, when you go log into your company, connect your system with the network wire, there's a layer of authentication happening even when your system is not completely logged in. Even then also there is authentication happening. That's a device based authentication which is happening. And how it is happening? It is based on the digital certificate which is there in the device. We can talk at length on that. Let's also go on non-repudiation as well. But before we go on non-repudiation, it is fundamentally very important to understand authenticity. So authenticity is that the message is coming from the intended source. You need some kind of proof that the message is coming from the intended source, and at the same time, the message has not been identified. So if I say that authenticity is equal to source or destination authentication, right, plus integrity assurance, then we can say the message is authentic, right? There can be source authentication, there can be destination authentication. In your company environment, when we set up a internal PKI, that is where we do mutual authentication. So authenticity in that case is from both the side. And you know why I covered authenticity first and then I'm going to go on the non-repudiation? Because non-repudiation is the thing, right? It is the assurance that the party who has done some kind of action should not be able to deny it, and you cannot achieve non-repudiation without authenticity. So for that purpose, what we use for non-repudiation, only one, you can say, in the entire cryptography solutions whatever we have, only one solution can give you perfect non-repudiation, and that is digital signature, right? Digital signature. And digital signature also, you must need asymmetric algorithm for the same. So you are going to say that asymmetric is used to actually produce digital signature. So these concepts are very small concept, very fundamental concept, but you should be very sure about this. When you go for the exam, there will be scenarios which will try to confuse you. You don't have to get confused. So that is the one thing from where we are going to start this journey for cryptography. Now, some more terms about cryptography, as you can see. So I have prepared a small slide for you. The text, which is the original text, and you want to screw that up to send to the another party so that nobody is able to access it without the proper authorization and all of it. That is what is called as plain text. And your goal is to actually convert it into ciphertext. For that, you have to make this entire thing to go through a mixture and grinder kind of thing, and that is called as encryption process. And this encryption process also use certain things which are very fundamental and, guys, very much testable in the exam as well. Whenever we go for encryption, the number one thing which is required by you is going to be the algorithm. It is nothing but a mathematical combination of equations from where your data will pass on, and your data will be churned and mixed well, and lot of transposition and substitution will happen based on that. So that is your algorithm. One of a very important quality for any algorithm is entropy. Now, what is actually entropy? In a very single layman language, it is nothing but randomness. If the exam tests you, what is the biggest enemy for cryptography? What is that you are going to think? That is always going to be the patterns. Your cryptography output should not be able to produce any kind of patterns. because if patterns are there, the attacker will try to reverse engineer it, and they are going to go into the thing which is called as crypto analysis. It is the science of breaking the cryptography. And you can see there are different type of crypto analysis methods. For example, frequency analysis and differential analysis. Frequency analysis is kind of an analysis where the attacker sees the pattern. If he knows the ciphertext is in English, then he understands this, that for example the A is repeated most. There's a frequency of repeating A in the English language. So like those, they are going to get the trends. Those trends are available on the internet, and based on that, the output is, they are going to see for these character repetition in the output, and then they can break the cryptography. So that is called as frequency analysis. On the other end, there is also something called as differential analysis. And differential analysis is an art of differentiating two things. For example, the attacker gets some kind of plain text, some kind of ciphertext. He is going to compare them, differentiate them, what is the difference between them, and he keep on observing this over a period of time, and then they break the cryptography. And based on that, you can see there are so many different type of attacks which are there on cryptography. Maybe in the next session we will understand it. But for now, because we were there on algorithm, we were there on the encryption mechanism, and we have covered algorithm first. So a algorithm is fundamentally required, is kind of a mixer and grinder in which you put anything and it is going to yeah, feel free to ask any doubt, guys. Okay, you can put it on the chat. I am going to cover it as we go along. Okay, then when we go for encryption, decryption, or hashing, or anything, one of the very important thing, especially for encryption, because in hashing we don't use the keys, we have to use some kind of keys. These are kind of secret values which you use to actually make sure that every time the output is different. And this key is also called as key variable, right? Because it may vary. And at the same time, guys, the length of the key plays a very important role. The length and the randomness of how the key is getting generated play a very important role in the strength of cryptography, right? Then when we go through the entire encryption mechanism, for example, you are going to encrypt CISSP, and again you, after some time, you have CISSP, and after some time also you have CISSP. Every time if your output gives you XYZ as an output, don't you think that's a pattern? 100%, right? That's a pattern, and we want to avoid it. So to avoid it, we use two type of mechanism. Number one is called as initialization vector. What is an initialization vector? It's a random value which is actually mixed up into the first block of the ciphertext, of the plain text, and then we go and encrypt and those kind of stuff, right? So please remember, initialization vector is only used only once, and then later on we can produce from the outcome which is coming, we can produce more. And based on this, you can see there are some implementation method as well. For example, ECB mode, CBC mode. Maybe in the next session we will take it, but not very important from the exam perspective. At least you need to understand what's the purpose and all these kind of stuff, but not for this session because the session will become very lengthy. Now, there is another way in which also we can add some kind of randomness in the entire cryptographic implementation, and that is by using the nonce. Now, what is a nonce? Again, just like initialization vector, nonce also is a random value which we mixed with the plain text. But here is the change. Initialization vector is only used for the first block, but a nonce comes with some mechanism, let's say counter. And then for every block, the counter will keep incrementing, and then you perform some kind of XOR operation between your nonce and the counter, and you produce the next nonce. So nonce can be automatically regenerated in the entire chain. So that's the major difference between a initialization vector and a nonce. Okay, I think we are done with some good terminology here. But one again very important thing, exam may also test you on one more thing. We have spoken about crypto analysis, and you can see these many different type of attacks, and these attacks are very prevalent. Then how do we survive in the entire, this kind of mechanism where cloud computing is coming now, AI is coming? How can we make sure that we always use secure cryptography? The strength of a cryptography, or the relevance of a cryptography, or the best suitability of the cryptography comes from a term called as work factor. This work factor is the time and effort which is required to break the cryptography. And let's say you are doing a transaction just for 2 seconds, and it is going to take 2 years for an attackers to break it. That means there is sufficient work factor there. The moment this work factor drops, that means it is not good. It is not good. The cryptography is not secure enough. And then we have to switch over to a next kind of algorithm, right? Next cipher. That is why, as a security professional, you should always be looking for, always on a lookout for what kind of attacks are going on cryptography is. Okay? Yeah. I see there is a question here. Do they ask AI questions in CISSP exam? Yes, sir. A recent update has come where ISC2 has released some kind of guidance on some AI questions which are coming. If you want, you can actually comment. If we have sufficient comment, we are going to have a dedicated session on AI on cybersecurity as well for the CISSP exam. Okay. Now let's continue with cryptography thing. In cryptography, we have certain ciphers, and these are fundamentally tested sometimes in the exam. So you need to understand the difference between them. Number one is the substitution cipher. So for your easy understanding, I have put up a plain text here as CISSP, and then I'm going to now change every character with a different character, as you can see in the output. These characters are completely replaced or substituted with different characters. And how do we do that? For example, in this particular case, I have taken a very simplistic example here, +3. It is also called as a ROT, ROT. So in this, every character is kind of preceded by 3 characters. So C becomes F, I becomes L, S becomes V, and so on. And that is called as substitution cipher. Now this looks very simple, but actually it's add a lot of confusion to the attacker's mindset. Whenever he is trying to break the cryptography, there will be a lot of, you can say, there will be a lot of confusion for here. So when we use substitution cipher, it actually leads to confusion. Okay. On the other side, there is another kind of cryptography as well, and that is called as transposition cipher. In a transposition cipher, for example, this is CISSP, and this is block number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What in this case we are going to do? We are going to shuffle their orders, right? For example, if my password is, let's say, 4, 1, 2, 5, and let's say 3. So what will happen is the fourth number character is going to come here on the first place. So I am going to put up S here, and then you can see the first character C is going to come on the second one. So what actually we are doing in this case? We are just shuffling the position of the different characters or different bits into the entire scene of things. And that is exactly called as transposition. Now, many of you might think, sir, why this? Why do we have transposition? So transposition is very important, and it actually provides us the diffusion. Now, what is diffusion in one sense? For example, take you have a cup of tea, and you feel like it is little not tasty, like there is less sugar. Then what you do? You add some sugar and then mix it well. So when we are generating the cryptography output, we have to make sure that the entire text is taken and it is mixed well. And that property is coming through the diffusion part. That is coming through the transposition cipher. Now, one very important thing, when we use these two things together, right, that actually leads to a concept called as avalanche effect. Now, what is the avalanche effect? Avalanche effect is, even if there is a small change in the plain text, let's say you are going to make a small dot, or you are going to make a space, white space, you are going to make a small letter as a uppercase, then the at least the output should change more than 50%. And that is exactly what is called avalanche effect. This brings more unpredictability into the entire scheme of things. So I hope you get a good idea what is substitution cipher and the transposition cipher. Now it is time for us to go up the ladder and try to also understand two more ciphers here. One is called as block cipher and the one is called as stream cipher. Now, in the first place, block cipher, you might have heard, right? Even sometimes we call hard drive also as blocks, right? It's a block device. That means the data is stored in blocks. What are these blocks? For example, you have some kind of plain text, and then this plain text is broken down into equal size of blocks. And then each of the block goes through this process. It is plain text is goes through the encryption mechanism, where we are going to mix substitution plus transposition, and in many cases we also use one more function called as XOR, extended OR operation. And the combination of this will be able to generate the first ciphertext. So block number one will go with transposition, then substitution, and it is going to give you the ciphertext number one. Then the second number block will also go with the same process, transposition, substitution, and then it will give you ciphertext number two, like this. And then these are kind of assembled there. So this kind of cryptography, block cipher, where do we use? Most of the time we use block cipher. Let it be a data at rest or data is in motion as well. Even when you are actually sending some data to somebody, let's say through an email, block cipher will be the one which will be used. Okay. Now the next important thing, let's say just now I'm communicating with you, and we are actually communicating on a encrypted channel, right? Whatever coming from my voice, like my voice is coming to you in an encrypted channel. Now when in live, because I'm talking live now with you, right? When we talk live, at that point in time, if there is too much of latency, then that's a problem. We cannot make whatever I speak to go through these 12 round or 15 round of substitution or transposition, right? That will not be right, because this will add to a lot of network latency and the quality of call will degrade. So in this case, we are going to use a little lighter version of the same thing. In this, what happens is, let's say I'm speaking with you, and my voice is like 010101, all of it. We also use a something called as a key stream generator. For example, you join this call by using a particular session ID, right? I have also joined this using a particular session ID. So you also have a key stream generator. I also have a key stream generator. And because our session are same, it is going to produce the same, you can say random bits, 101010 to you. And then when I speak, what happens is every bit by bit operation will happen, and we will go through a extended OR function, and every bit will be easily done. Now many of you might be thinking, what is this extended OR operation? It's very simple, guys. 1 and 0 is equal to 1, 0 and 1 is equal to 1, but 0 and 0 is equal to 0, and 1 and 1 is equal to 0. So this is a very, very lightweight thing. It doesn't take any latency, and that is why it is used when we are doing the real-time streaming. As the name also suggests, is stream cipher. So that is where we use the stream cipher. But in this, the key stream generator which we might be using, right? This might still be using the block cipher. Please understand that. So I think so much of cryptography, right? We discussed substitution cipher, we discussed transposition cipher, we discussed block cipher, we discussed stream cipher. Now let's come on the most testable topic in the CISSP exam, that is symmetric cipher and asymmetric cipher. You will be heavily tested on that. So what is basically a symmetric cipher? In a symmetric cipher, very simply, just let's take a real-time example. I want to send you a file and I want to send it, let's say, by zipping it and protecting it with a password. That means encrypting it and sending across to you. Now, when I do so, I will be encrypting it with a secret value, and you have to actually decrypt it using the same secret value. So both the parties have to use the same key. This kind of cryptography, where single key is used by the sender and the receiver to encrypt and decrypt the message, it is basically called as symmetric cipher. Now, that is good. How useful is this? Very, very useful. In today, whatever you do, almost 99% of the transactions is done using symmetric cipher. It's not a stats, but I am just telling you to give a feel that most of the transaction happens using the symmetric cipher. All the bulk data, right? All the bulk data is being transmitted after symmetric encryption. And this is quite fast. So another keyword which you must remember here, it is very, very fast, and it is used for bulk of the data. But every good thing also come with some limitations as well, right? So in this, there are some limitations also, and you need to understand it very, very clearly, right? For example, there are 10 people in a company and they all need to communicate with each other, right? Seamlessly, one-to-one communication they have to do with each other, like all these kind of stuff, right? There will be a lot of kind of mesh kind of communication which will happen. You know how many symmetric keys will you require in this case? That is n into n minus 1. That means and divided by 2. For example, if there are 10 people, then we have to use 10 into 10 minus 1 is equal to 9. That means 90 divided by 2 is equal to 45 keys. And let's say these 45 keys, this particular database is there on each and every endpoint, each and every browser or endpoint, wherever, whatever way you are using it, right? If a single asset is kind of compromised in the environment, then the entire database will get compromised. And this is why this is not scalable enough, right? So there is a first limitation is scalability, right? Not only this, guys, scalability is one issue. The second thing is the key transfer is also one of the issue. For example, as I told you, right, initially, you are going to send me a zip file, password protected, so you have to give me the password as well. Otherwise, how I am going to open it? And when you do so, can you send the same zip file and the password in the same email? It's an ugly idea, right? Not a good idea. Even when you receive a debit card, you get the pin separately, and that is called as out of channel, right? Out of the channel. So you have to use a different channel to go and communicate this thing, communicate the key to the other party. And this was kind of a huge limitation at that point in time. You cannot just go and ask your bank manager, sir, I want to do a transaction, please share a key with me so that I will do the transactions. Do you do that today? No, right? We don't do that. So what is the solution? How can we make this key to transfer on the other side without any problem? Okay. And that is where people started searching, how can we do so? And that is where this key generation and key exchange kind of mechanism came into picture. Now, fundamentally, from the CISSP perspective, you need to understand what is the difference between key generation, okay, and key exchange. Okay, just to understand, because sometimes exam will test you about these very look-alike terms, and that is where the game is, right? So you need to understand this clearly. Key generation is when a single party is generating a key and then giving to the second party for usage. So the authority for generating the key is on one party, right? And we do so. Sometimes we do so, right? For example, in your TLS 1.2, you can configure it as a key generation protocol. You can configure it as key generation. At the same time, let's say you can also configure it as a key exchange as well, right? But what is actually key exchange? Let's try to understand that. So in a key exchange, what happens is both the parties, they will mutually do some kind of exchange. Both the party will be involved, right? Both the party will be involved, and then only you are able to generate the key, right? A common key, right, for transaction. So on these lines, when people started, searching for such kind of mechanism, the first method came in was called as Diffie-Hellman, right? So in a Diffie-Hellman mechanism, Diffie-Hellman is basically a key exchange protocol. Key exchange protocol. And actually it will take more time for me to explain, but just on a high level I'm giving you some idea. In Diffie-Hellman, what will happen? Let's say there is a party A, let's say Alice, and there is a party B, let's say Bob, and let's say there is a party E which is going to do the eavesdropping, who want to listen to the traffic. And let's say all these people, there is no secure communication between them. So what will happen is A and B, Alice and Bob, they will agree with some kind of predetermined values. They are going to first search for a big prime number. Let's say big prime number, let's say 23. And they will also find out a starting number, let's say 3. Now, these three, they are going to openly communicate, so even E can listen to it. So they are going to declare 23 as the big prime number, and they are going to communicate 3 as the base number, right? Now, what will happen? The magic is here, right? When A want to send a message to B, what A will do, he will use a formula. What A will do, she will actually think of any random number, let's say 2. And then what she will do, she will take the base value, put the power of 2, and divide it by 23. That means the prime number, and that the remainder, whatever remainder comes from here, will become the message she has to send to the other party. Similarly, what will happen? Same thing will happen on the B side. B is also imaginary thinking about a value, let's say secret value, let's say 3, but she is not going to send it to anybody. She is just generating a value in their mind, and then she does this calculation. The base like it is proposed, raised to the power this secret value, right? Then divided by 23, and whatever the remainder comes, right, that is going to be a secret value. You can say the session key for this. That is going to be the session key. Somehow you will also agree, it is mathematically proven that both the party will have the same secret value. And this is actually what is Diffie-Hellman. I can take a 1 hour session on that, but just to keep things limited, just to understand the fact, they are going to first requiring a prime number, they are going to selecting a base number, and the entire game happens on these two numbers. They are then going to imagine any secret value, but they are not going to communicate the secret value to the other party. Instead, they are processing it by raising it, the base will be kind of to the power of the secret value divided by 23 and all. So that's how Diffie-Hellman actually works. Now you might feel it's very elementary, very mathematical calculation and all. Yes, you are right. In today's TLS 1.3 also, we use this kind of mechanism. Maybe later on we can think. So I hope you get through this particular concept. No need to go too much into depth. I think this much clarity is more than sufficient. Now, let's talk about asymmetric cryptography. And in asymmetric, one of the very important distinction here is we are not going to use a single key, we are going to use two different keys. Just think like 13 into 7 is equal to 91. So first they are going to find out a big prime number, let's say in this case 91, just for the sake of example, and then one becomes the public key, one becomes the private key. So there will be a public and a private key generated for a particular user. Now, as the name suggests, the private key has to be private, just like your toothbrush. Never share with anyone. Any CISSP question tricking you that you are going to share your private key, no, it's not the right way. Always keep it private. Okay. On the other side, the public key is meant to be public. It's like your visiting card. Anybody who want to send you an email, you need to share your email with them, right? Kind of thing. So it is that kind of thing where you have to share it. Now, what will happen? These two keys, as we have seen in this example, don't you think they are mathematically related? Right? That is why we say that asymmetric cryptography is based on a principle called as factorization of big prime numbers. And that is exactly what is happening in this particular case. Now, one very important thing, if A want to send a message to B, then which key is A going to use for encrypting the message? Actually, A is going to use whatever message is there. It is going to use B's public key. And then when the message reach out to B, B is going to use B's private key. When B want to reply, B is going to use A's public key, and A is going to use their private key to decrypt. So please understand, always for encryption in normal fashion, we always use the public key of the receiver to encrypt the message. And it is very much tested in the CISSP exam. You should be very much clear about it. Now, this is good, guys, and this enabled real-time transactions of what we do in the real world. How come? We are going to understand that in just a while, right? But let's also understand some limitations here. Number one, it solves the problem of key exchange. Now we can generate the keys, we can exchange the keys. That's a fantastic thing to do. But the other problem is the asymmetric cryptography is, I would say, because the keys, RSA keys are very big, fairly big. So they are not so good for encrypting bulk of the data. So what we do, we can only encrypt, it is only suitable for encrypting a small set of data. And that's the reason why when we use asymmetric cryptography, normally it is used for authentication purposes, and the secret keys which need to be encrypted and all, that is where we use asymmetric cryptography. So I hope that gives you a good idea. But how these things get combined? We understood symmetric on one side, we understood asymmetric on the other side. One is good for bulk data, one is good for small data, but it can give you live transactions, all of it. Then how the things works in the real world? Let's talk about that. Okay, let's say you are going to communicate with the server, let's say www.mybank.com, right? And you are the client, you are using it from the browser. What will be the first message which will go from client to the server? It is called as client hello. And in client hello, your computer is going to send all the cipher suite which it supports. It will tell you, I support TLS 1.3 or 1.2, and it will also tell this is a cipher suite I am going to use. So that is called as cipher, client hello. And along with that, there will be a plain text which will be sent. For example, this client hello is equal to 3, and this is communicated on the other side. The server will receive this plain text. It's an open communication, anybody else can also receive, not a problem. Okay, so server will also receive the client hello is equal to 3. Now what the server will do, server is going to reply with something called as server hello. And this time the server hello will agree to whatever cipher suit you are going to use, whatever TLS method you are going to use. If the client uses 1.3 but server support only TLS version 1.2, there has to be a TLS downgrade, right? So it will agree with that, and then it is going to reply with a server hello, and the agreement is done. Now alongside with that, it will also send a value, let's say in this case 5. Now the 5 is going to be transmitted on the other side, and it is plain text, nothing is secret till this point. So this party also get server hello is equal to 5, right? Now, until now, everything is going in plain text. Nothing is secret until now. Now, what happens is, here is the magic. The server will also send a digital certificate to the client, and client will verify the digital certificate. You know, digital certificate is kind of a container which will contain the public key of the particular server if the server is sending to you. Then it is going to use the public key which is there in the server digital certificate, and it is going to generate a pre-master key. Now you understand, right? The first time we are using a word called as key, that means it is a secret value. And secret value cannot be sent just like this in plain text. It is going to encrypt it with the public key which is there in the digital certificate. Whose public key? It is the server public key. And then let's say the client sent this pre-master key, right, to the other party. And let's say in this case it is 7, right? PMK is equal to 7. Now 7 will be reaching on the other side. Now the server has its own private key. It can decrypt the PMK, and then 7 will be here. Now, what will happen is both the parties will actually generate the session key independently. How come? Session key is equal to the client hello plus the server hello plus the PMK. Actually, it's not plus. In a cryptography language, it is something called as XOR. But just for ease of understanding, we are taking it as plus. So here it will generate 3 plus 5 plus 7, and session key is equal to 15. Here also same 15 will be generated, and then both the parties will make sure that the channel is secured, right? It is called as channel is secured. And only after this only you are going to get your login username and password and all these kind of stuff, right? So this entire thing is called as what? This is called as TLS handshake. Now the point I want to prove here, guys, is that we started with some plain text. Client hello was plain text, server hello was also plain text, and then we used a key in this particular case, and the key was encrypted using which cryptography? Is it symmetric or asymmetric? Please answer me in the chat. Is it symmetric or asymmetric? The key which we obtained from the digital certificate. I think there's a chat delay, so no problem. We are going to use nothing but the asymmetric cryptography. It is going to be the public key, public and private key pair is used to do that. So in TLS handshake, can we say TLS handshake uses asymmetric cryptography, right, to generate the session key? Guys, what is this session key? This session key is a symmetric key which will then be used for encrypting your entire session thereafter, right? All the data which is getting exchanged will then be encrypted using this session key, right? And that is symmetric key. So this way, where in the TLS handshake and other communication as well, we use a combination of symmetric plus asymmetric, and this is actually what is called as hybrid cryptography. Whatever transactions you do today is actually a combination of all these two cryptographies. So I hope you guys get it, right? This is typically your RSA TLS 1.2 communication. Exactly the same way the communication will happen. But now there is a challenge. Can you guys think of a challenge in this particular case? The challenge is, let's say a particular hacker is actually monitoring all your four communications, let's say for the last 2 years, and somehow at some point in time, because of some insider threat, the attacker is able to get the private key, right? Until now nobody had the private key, but somehow the attacker got the private key. You know what? Because he has all these three values, he can generate the session key for all those 2 years transactions, and whatever you communicated in the last 2 years or 3 years, whatever is, it can be known by the attacker. This is one of the challenge. Even if the PMK is getting deleted the moment it is exchanged, and after that it is deleted, but the attacker has already done the eavesdropping and he has all these three copies of these values, so he can generate it, and then if he's doing some sniffing using the pcap file and all, then that particular data will always be with the attacker. And exactly the same challenge is addressed in TLS version 1.3. In TLS version 1.3, what we do, we make use of Diffie-Hellman as well. The same thing which I told you earlier, to actually make this entire communication secure. That means even the PMK is generated using Diffie-Hellman. And in Diffie-Hellman, again, there is an algorithm to confuse somebody. The attacker will not able to come to know anything, and that is why TLS 1.3 is way more secure than TLS 1.2. But having said that, if the exam test you is TLS 1.2 secure, yes, until today it is secure. It is being used, but there is a risk in that. There is already a risk in that. So you should be advising as a security professional for people to go for TLS version 1.3. But if a one party A supports TLS version 1.3, another party only supports version 1.2, then there has to be, you can as a system admin configure that do not downgrade. If the downgrade is not permitted, the communication will not happen. If you allow the downgrade, then the downgrade will happen. So that is called as TLS or SSL downgrade. So that's another term, guys, you need to understand. Sorry guys for such a messy slide here. It is such an important topic, right? I take hours and hours together to do that. Somehow we have very less time, guys, today. Okay, let me also talk about hashing. And in hashing, what happens is, number one, if somebody asks you what is the difference between encryption and hashing, in hashing we don't use any kind of keys, right? And then it is a one-way function. And one very interesting thing, if you put a small dot and let it go through the hashing algorithm, then also it will give you the same fixed length output, this fixed length output. If you give a paragraph, then also it will give you the same length of output. If you take all the books in the world and make the single hashing out of it, then also it is going to generate a fixed length of hash value. And based on this only, you will see that most of the hashing algorithms, they are kind of defined. Let's say SHA 256, 512. What does this 256 and 512 represent? It is the output hash length, right? So always understand that. Now, that's a small thing. Let's go on other thing as well. One very big quality of a good hashing algorithm is to prevent any kind of collusion. Now, what is collusion? If, let's say, there is a password, right? Let's say Manoj at the rate 123. On the other side, there is a different password somebody has generated. Let's say Rajesh at the rate 123. And systems do not use your passwords directly. There is a key stretching process, as part of your operating system, which actually converts this Manoj at the rate 123 into some kind of hash value like this. If both the passwords actually generate the same hash value, that is called as collusion. And this can be very detrimental because the hacker does not mind if your password is Manoj at the rate 123 or Rajesh at the 123, or it is just A, B, C, D, right? Or you use a very complex password, hash at the rate whatever complexity you have. It does not matter, because end of the day, hacker want just this value and he's going to use it. So that is why your good hashing algorithm should not support any kind of collusion. But it is a very rare event. Sometimes this kind of things has been seen, and based on that only you will see the dictionary attacks which are happening, because there is a concept which is called as rainbow table. Sorry, there is a concept called as birthday paradox. Birthday paradox. In this birthday paradox, it says if in a class there are 23 students, there is every chance, like 50% chance, that two people will have the same birthday. Otherwise, if you go mathematically, you have to try 364 times to find another birthday. But here, by only using a small set of 23, you can get it. And exactly based on this, the dictionary attacks are performed. There are rainbow tables available on the internet, and they will just download it. They will use some kind of tool. They will use one to many comparison of your hash value, and that is how they actually match your passwords. It is very easy, takes few milliseconds to get these things broken. Now that is one. Second thing, it also must support avalanche effect. Any small change in the plain text would change the entire hash value, and that is why it is the best one for actually checking the integrity as well. Okay. And then it has to be deterministic, means every time it is to be repeatable. If you do it one time, you do it 100 times, you do it on a Mac machine, you do it on a Windows machine, always the hash value should always be the same. So that is exactly what is your hash value. And then when a document is being going undergoing the hash function, the outcome we call it as a digest, message digest. Okay. Now in here, this message digest, it can also be used to identify the integrity, and we call it as message integrity code. It is only used for integrity. But the problem here is a man in the middle attack. What happens in MIC, for example, party A is sending a message to party B, you have a message, and then there is a associated hash value. The attacker can actually go and change the message itself, right? And then generate a fresh hash value which is like matching this. And if B do not have a way to validate if this is actually B or C, right? Then B will start believing that actually this party is A. And this is the way how sessions can be taken over and those kind of stuff. So this kind of attack is called as man in the middle attack, which we want to protect, obviously. And to protect this, what happens is we can use a different type of hash value, which is called as message authentication code. So when you pass on your plain text, we also mix a pre-shared key. This pre-shared key will be actually pre-shared between the sender and the receiver. And then because hacker C will never know this pre-shared key, then even if he try to regenerate, he will not be able to generate the same hash value. Or even if he generates, B will come to know, yes, it is a tempered kind of message. So the message authentication code does not only give you integrity, it is also providing you something called as authentication as well. Now you might be asking, sir, how authentication? Because the pre-shared key is only shared between the sender and the receiver. It is pre-shared or maybe generated at the same time. It is only with the sender and the receiver. The attacker don't have it. So that's a good way of doing the identification. So can we say that MAC give us authenticity? Because I told you earlier, authenticity is equal to authentication plus integrity. So yes, very well, you can achieve authenticity through MAC. I hope this gives you a good fair idea, right? Let's go. And okay, before we go, guys, I think we are already 55 minutes into the session, guys. Is it okay that we practice the questions next time? Just send me a message if you want to continue, or we can take this rest of the, like, I have some questions to be practiced. Do you want to take it in this session or maybe next session? Just send me a quick chat. In the meantime, if you are interested to do your CISSP, you are serious about it, all these kind of stuff, then guys, there's a lot of success stories which we have. Okay, I see a lot of continue coming. We can continue, sir. Okay, good, guys, very nice. Thank you for that gesture, guys. That means you are not getting bored, right? For sure, we'll do. So guys, before I go, just I will take 1 minute. If you are interested to get your CISSP done, there is already the best program out there. And you can see so many people, so many success stories here. This is my book called as CISSP Success Toolkit. This is also available on Amazon. You can just search and purchase. I will also give you a link at the last. And then this is how the CISSP Success Toolkit looks like, the world biggest ecosystem for your CISSP. And the difference is not just in this tool, it is just a tool. It has a lot of questions and all these kind of stuff. The major differentiator is the mindset. There is something called as a training and there is something called as coaching. If you want to get a coaching, because training is a one-way affair, people will teach you 40 hours, 50 hours and go. But a coaching is very different. A coaching is where the coach helps you one-to-one and all these kind of stuff. So if you want to get that kind of feeling, want to achieve your CISSP in 2026 or early 2027 as well, then feel free to join. Okay, anyways, here's the question, guys. Let's continue. I will give you 72 seconds, as you know. Let me calculate the time. Please answer on the chat. Thirty seconds. Please answer on the chat, guys. Okay, good. Vinod, very nice. Okay, so we are done with the time, guys. So let's review this question. Guys, number one, whenever you answer any CISSP question, follow this framework, take a screenshot, always go mentally start practicing based on this framework. Okay, because this is very, very important. First, we have to read the question, then the body keyword, and I will tell you what is body keyword. Comparison keyword is very evident. You can see in this case, the best is the comparison keyword. Then always ask yourself one question: what is they are trying to ask from me? Sometimes the language will be very twisted and you will get lost in the language. Never believe that. Always ask yourself, always summarize in one single sentence what they are trying to ask you, and then you have to go with the elimination method. Do your final selection based on the comparison keyword, and that is how you have to go. Okay, now coming back onto this question. During an audit, a reviewer finds that the user passwords are stored in the database encrypted with AES-256, which is like fantastic, right? You must encrypt your passwords, right? All the time, which is great. With the key held by the application server. Now the key is configured in the application server itself. Which change best protect the stored passwords? Now, cryptography is good, definitely good for storing the passwords, but the first option says rotate the AES key quarterly and store it in HSM, which is kind of a good idea. It's not a completely wrong option. It is right only, but is it the best? We are searching for best, right? You can also rotate more frequently as well, right? Then B says replace encryption with salted one-way adaptive hashing. And salting is one of the term which is used when we mix the pre-shared key or something like that in your password. And definitely salting prevents dictionary attacks also. So this makes complete sense to me, even a better answer than A. But let's go with C and D also. C says re-encrypt the password using the server asymmetric key pair. No, guys, we don't use it for data in store. We only use for encrypting keys and all when the data is getting transferred from between the two parties. That is where we use asymmetric, not normally. And then apply HMAC to each password using an application secret. This HMAC is good. Ultimately, hashed MAC is, you can also relate with salted password also, but it is saying using an application secret. We don't use any kind of secret in hashing, right? We don't use a key in hashing. No key is required. So that is why this gets eliminated. This anyways already eliminated. Now the option is between A and B, and in this I feel that B is a stronger chance. Okay, so that is how B is the right answer for this question. Let's go on the next question, and I want you to decode this. I will reset the time. I don't see your answers on the chat yet. Almost a minute now. You have to answer within 72 seconds, guys. Last 2 seconds. We are done with the time, guys, and let's go with this question, right? Okay, before I take it, guys, just a small thing I want to just test out. How many of you started reading this particular question from here, and then like this you came down, and then you started reading the options? How many of you have done it this way, Z? And this is like human nature. We human are tuned to do so, but I will tell you just a different method, right? If before you go and start reading the question, because sometimes the language can be tricky, just take a quick glance on the options first. You will get to know what they are asking, and if you read the last line and then the option, that will give you a clear idea finally what is being asked finally. And then you can go and read the question. If you generate this habit, maybe over a period of time you can master it. It can become your second behavior. The best for CISSP, guys. Okay, now let's go and review this question. It says a vendor proposes an encryption product built on proprietary algorithm. It keeps confidential. Okay, so it maintains confidentiality. Claiming secrecy make it harder to attack. That means perfect confidentiality encryption. What should the security manager conclude? Okay, this is more on your decision making. In the first session I told you, right, you will be only tested on three things. One is, do you know it? Second thing, you have to act and you have to decide. So wherever we have to act and decide means a little bit of management angle there, right? If you remember, you recall, you have seen my first session. Now let's come on the question. It says the product is acceptable if the vendor passes a financial viability review. It is like you need a product which gives you confidentiality, and you know what you decide. I don't think it is just going to be the costing, so we can eliminate that. Okay, secrecy of algorithm adds a valid additional layer of defense. Definitely it makes sense, but as per the Kirchhoff's law, the security of algorithm is not important. You can even use a public algorithm as well, but what is important is the key secrecy. So I think this concept doesn't fit our cryptographic thing. Then C says the product is acceptable if the key length exceed industry norms. If you are going to have too much lengthy key, then it is going to have a negative impact on the production as well. So you have to find a fine balance between the how much secret your data is, how much lengthy key you are going to perform, and what latency you actually need, what is your performance parameters and all. So I think C also doesn't make sense, and that is the reason why we go with D, and it says security must rest in the key alone. Very right. It is called as Kirchhoff's law. Kirchhoff's law. And it says unreviewed secret algorithms are a risk. That is also right. Algorithm, you have to see if this algorithm has already been broken or there are known attacks against this algorithm. That is where, when you select a cryptography, make sure that you go and review the algorithm as well. So guys, D is the answer. I hope you are calculating right how much you are scoring today's session. So let's go with the next one, and I will start the counter. Answer me on the chat, guys. $55 seconds. Last 10. We are done. Sorry, my bad calculation. Okay, so let's go and see this question, guys. A training firm must send large end of day file. That means you have to send bulk data, end of day file, confidentiality to 300 counterparties, means 300 parties. Latency matters. It should not be very heavy as well, and counterparties change every quarter, so parties may also change every quarter. Okay, my goodness. Which approach best balances security and performance? They are trying to check you, giving you a situation that you are going to deal with 300 different people. You have to send them some kind of encrypted files, and they are large files at the same time, and you have to balance security and performance as well. What is the best approach? So number A says encrypt each file entirely with the counterparty's RSA public key. No, sir, we never do that. Asymmetric cryptography is only used for encrypting the secrets. We never use it for bulk data. So this goes out, eliminated. Option number B, it says establish pre-shared AES keys with every counterparty. Pre-shared AES keys. I think if we pre-share, see, there is a key which is like ephemeral, which is temporary, and there's a key which is for a long duration. If a key is used for a long duration, that is a big risk. As I told you, in case of TLS 1.2, if somebody is kind of capturing your sessions over a period of time and they get to know your secret key, they can get everything, right? Whatever you sent in the past, that is not a good thing to do. So that is why we are going to eliminate B. And then comes your C. It says generate a fresh AES session key per transfer wrapped with the counterparty's public key. And that is very much an example of hybrid cryptography we use today, right? We generate a session key. Session key will actually be used to encrypt the whole data, and then for transferring this session key we use asymmetric cryptography. We encrypt it using the other party public key and send across to the other party, right? So very much I think that's the right answer. But let's see D as well. It says hash each file and transmit the hash alongside. This will only give us integrity, but the question is focused on confidentiality. So this completely is a wrong answer. That is why C is the right answer for this question. So I see some of you are fantastic, doing fantastic work. Let's go with the next question, guys. Oh, I think, guys, this one we have done. I think this is the question we have to do. Let me reset your time. Answer me on the chat, sir. One minute. Last five. And the time is over. Okay, guys, let's review this question. It says a legal team signs contracts digitally by hashing each document and encrypting the hash with the signer's private key. I think definitely they are talking about digital signature in this particular case. If you're wondering how digital signature works, don't worry, I'm going to bring that in the next session. A researcher then demonstrates that the hash algorithm in use lets two different documents produce the same digest. That means they are talking about the collusion, right? And they are asking what is the primary risk of collusion, actually, right? Okay, good one, sir. So let's go and review this question, right? Number way, it says signature verification will begin to fail for legitimately signed contracts. Signature verification will begin to fail for legitimately signed contracts. No, it will not fail. It will still be working fine, but there is a risk that somebody is kind of doing a fraud by sending you a digital, signature where he doesn't know the private key because it has already been compromised. So I don't think A is the right answer in this case. B says a substituted document could carry a valid signature from the original. That is also a, it says a substituted document could carry a valid signature from the original. I think substituted document will not produce the same thing. We need the same document, but because the primary key has been compromised, right? uh, the digital signature can be spoofed, but not the original document. So that is why also B, I think, no, I think it says a substituted document could carry a valid signature from the original. a substitute document would carry a valid signature from the original. Okay, let's see others. I see there is something into this. Then C says private signing keys could be derived from the published digest. Private signing keys could be derived from the public digest. No, guys, it is never possible. So this is a clear elimination for me. I think B still we will keep it alive, but C is dead in this particular case. I hope you guys will agree with me. You can comment me on the chat. Then next one, it says contract contents could be disclosed to unauthorized parties. No, sir, this is not encryption. We are in this case talking about hashing. That means digital signature, right? Now, for B, I would like to read the question one again time. It says a legal team sign contract digitally by hashing each document and encrypting the hash with the signer private key. Quite good, right? A researcher then demonstrate that the hash algorithm in use lets two different documents produce the same digest. Two different documents produce the same digest. Okay, so that is why it says because the two different documents can create the same digest, then the document can be substituted, right? In that particular case. And that is why B is the right answer for this particular question. I know this one was a little bit more tricky, but that's how, between the fine lines, sometimes we get some questions. So that is the thing, guys. And I think my team has already, some people are asking, can you send your Amazon hard copy link? Sir, definitely it is available on Amazon.com, not on .in. You can order it from Amazon.com. Otherwise, very shortly, if you're in India, we are going to publish and send across, right? That's another thing. So this section, guys, the session is already lengthy today, so we are going to eliminate that. And today's reward, guys, if anybody want to have the mock test, each and everybody now who is going for the CISSP exam is taking this mock test. It is the most popular, it is the bestseller on Udemy. If you are preparing for CISSP, don't take a risk, go with these mock tests, and if you score only between 70 to 75 consistently, then only go and hit the CISSP exam. On the other side, I think few people were asking for the link. I think my team will also put it on the chat also. They have, I think, already pinned it, so you can take it from there. Otherwise, you can scan this QR code. So I hope, guys, you like the session today, and I think in some way or the other, I am able to produce some value for you. I have been helpful for your CISSP journey, and we will keep doing this good work continuously. In the next session also, we will continue with cryptography, because this is where I see a lot of student fails, and they are never, they are never confident, right? So that is why. And go ahead, guys, and please do subscribe to the channel. It gives me a lot of encouragement, guys. It's really hard work on a Friday. I'm also spending some time with you, so I hope you guys love it. But I am very happy if this entire effort is going to help you in your CISSP exam. Thank you, guys. Jai Hind, and I'm going to see you next week, guys. Bye, everyone.